Yes, like the title read, divorce is not a sin. And for us to be able to understand this very well, maybe it's about time we all start asking for the meaning of divorce. What's the meaning of divorce? Hello everyone, welcome to Breakage Barriers. My name is Blessing, also known as Lady B. What I do here is talk about culture and human habits. Don't forget to press the subscribe button, the notification bell, like and comment. What is it to be divorced? As found, divorce is meant to be dissociating oneself from another. And why should one dissociate oneself from another person? There are so many reasons attached to this. And this could be for the reasons of not being or feeling safe because of the toxicity of a relationship. There are so many reasons why one would want to dissociate oneself from another person. But in this case, it's got to do with marriage. I mean, when it comes to divorce, there's no way you talk about divorce without talking about marriage, because that's where divorce comes in, isn't it? You've got to have a marriage to be able to have a divorce. I know there are religious connection to this, but just bear with me. We will get there as you listen on. Marriage, if you don't know, is a legal binding between two people. So for there to be a divorce, which can also be interpreted as a dissolution, that means there's disunity of those two couples or those two individuals. Now, Christian religion is the one we're going to be talking about here, because the Christian religion is understood by some that you cannot divorce, or that divorce is a sin. And from scriptures, if one has to go back to scripture, especially where it is mentioned, which is in the book of Deuteronomy 24 and Matthew 19, Moses allowed divorce. In the 10 commandments of Moses, divorce is not in the list of one of the sins. The question is, what is sin? A proper interpretation of what sin is in the Christian religion, sin is interpreted as a state of being, but in the African religion, sin is understood primarily as blasphemies against the gods or against God. So when you sin, it should be in terms of blasphemy against God, the creator of heaven and earth and all things that therein are. Divorce, in the other hand, is between two human beings. So this is where some interpretation has really gotten it wrong. And that's why in the Old Testament, Moses allowed for a divorce to be served. Because marriage, when we look at marriage, marriage is a contract between two people, two individuals. If that contract is not healthy, if that contract ends up being toxic, you have the right as a human being who's got intellect to end the contract. If one person is in breach of the contract, you can end the contract. And talking about being in breach of a contract, if you end up marrying a person who has vowed to you, to love you, to keep you, to care for you, to be there for you, and that person end up battering you, spitting on you, beating you up, my brother, my sister, you better end that contract. If you're not the one that has turned out not to keep the terms and conditions of the contract, you better break that contract to save yourself any further harm. Why stay in a relationship whereby you're being beaten up? As in the case of a gospel singer called Osinachi, who lived in West Africa, Nigeria. She was a devout Christian and she was married for years with 4 children. So this sister had been physically abused, physically beaten up by her husband, to the extent that her husband asked the children to as well beat their mother. One of the children said that their father taught them that it is good for them to beat women. So this man was not just an abuser to his wife, he was also an abuser, an emotional abuser to his children. I don't know how those children are going to grow up healthy without ending up repeating the cycle of abuse. As this story goes, it shows that these children will definitely need a lifetime therapy. Not a therapy for 1 or 2 years, because they've been conditioned to believe such lies. It's a heartbreaking story. Now, the woman ended up dying at the hospital after getting beaten up. The current Nigerian culture, there's no legal system in place for women to be able to run to aside churches when they find themselves in a position of harm, of vulnerability. They have no other place to run to. Unfortunately, these churches do take advantage of such vulnerabilities. Because in Osinachi's case, her pastor knew about the level of abuse she was going through in her marriage, but still advised her to continue to stay in an abusive relationship. Why? And then going back to the New Testament, in the book of Matthew 19, the scripture frowns on adultery, not divorce. He said if a partner commits adultery, then divorce is allowed. But Jesus was talking in terms of that era. In this era, there's not just adultery being committed. People are being murdered by being beaten up by their own partners who had vowed to love them but end up murdering them. And when women or anyone in such vulnerability sees those signs, the Christian religion asks them to stay put. Why? Because there's a culture of shame attached to it if anyone end up being divorced. So this culture of shame holds women in such vulnerability bound in such marriages. Why should one continue in such marriages? And these pastors go around preaching and translating the Bible falsely. For those who are Christians, it's best to get knowledge of the translation of the Bible, because most of these texts were taken from the Hebrew text. The summary of this video is that know when to get off the table when love is no longer being served, because at the end of the day, it is he who wears the shoes that know where it hurts. If you are in a marriage where it's so toxic, your life is at stake, your children's life is at stake, get out. Don't allow the Christian religion or whatever religion hold you bound in such toxic and unhealthy marriage. Don't allow even society hold you bound, because guess what? When you die and leave this earth, the world is not going to stop, because at the end of the day, it is these children that are the victims in this case of Osinachi. Now, who is going to take care of these children now? Mentally, emotionally abused, and this is going to forever be a turn on their humanity. Whoever you are, and you know you are vulnerable, look out for yourself. When love is no longer being served, know when to leave, regardless of what society says. May the soul of Osinachi rest in peace. But this is a great lesson to everyone. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.